Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 1 of the High Performance podcast series. My name is Cary Cusumano, and I am the girls division director at High Performance, and I am joined by my friend and 2008 Olympic gold medalist, Scott Touzinsky. Scott,
what's up, Cary?
How's everything going?
Doing great. Can't wait to get this going. It's going to be a fun and exciting podcast for everybody out there, especially the High P family, and we're ready to rock and roll.
Good. We've got a lot of topics we want to cover over the next few weeks. We've obviously got a lot of time on our hands, and I think that's the first topic I want to jump into is how everybody's dealing with staying at home. I want to specifically talk to you, Scotty, about this. Like, how personally are you dealing with this just as an individual?
Yeah, for me, the stay-at-home orders are obviously clear and direct from the governing bodies and obviously the government, everybody, and just try to stay safe, stay at home, follow the curve, and flatten it like everybody's talking about. But most importantly, seeing how we can get better as individuals. Family time is a huge thing right now for all of us. I know we all want more family time, and now we obviously have this opportunity to get a lot of family time. And so spending it with the loved ones and just trying to think of ideas how to make everybody better and yourself better at the same time.
It's been a pretty interesting introspective process, just kind of being alone a lot, having family, and I have spent so much time on the computer using Zoom, whether it's for work or with my family, with my friends. But, for me, not having kids, I really have tried to talk to my friends a lot about what's going on in their household on a day-to-day basis. Like, how is your family dealing with it?
At the beginning, it was excitement. We have all this extra time together, and it's great to be together. And then, after the first week or so, it's like, oh my gosh, we have 30 more days of this minimum. And we've, been getting outside and obviously doing yard work. And I think everybody's yards are going to look better than they've ever had after this whole entire pandemic. We've been trying to be, I guess, a little bit adventurous with the things that we do. Obviously, with a 9-year-old son at the house, we've been doing the e-learning at home. My wife and I have definitely known for a long time that we are not the educators by any means in the vocabulary and the spelling and the mathematics and stuff like that. We tried this overseas when we were over in Poland and in China, and we failed both times in doing so. So this is kind of our third opportunity at it. And obviously with the help of the teachers and, shout out to all the teachers out there, they've had to obviously deal with a whole different type of way of teaching right now. The online e-learning is a tough one, but we've been doing a ton of sports. We have a ping pong table in the basement, so we play ping pong about 5 times a day. We get outside the basketball court and we shoot hoops about 5 times a day.
Who's better at ping pong, you or Logan?
What's that?
Who's better at ping pong, you or Logan?
Oh, I've got Logan right now, which is a good thing. I've always been a dad at the very beginning that said I'll never let my son win at anything because I'm going to make sure he earns it. So he gets frustrated and he hits some ping pong balls around. We play our daily horse, and he still has not won at that, but he wins in some other games outside the blacktop. And so, but it's fun to get it, excited. We've done some puzzles. We've done some cooking stuff, and it's been interesting. How about you guys? What have you been up to at the house besides being on television or on the, watching your Netflix and being on the computer?
So I think I've pretty much killed Netflix. I don't have anything left to watch. I'm looking for suggestions if anybody has any. But honestly, one of the things I've really gotten into is cooking. I've always been interested in cooking. The last few years I got really into barbecuing, like, having a smoker and doing that. But I've actually really enjoyed, because, with our schedule, generally speaking, we're not home to cook dinner, and so that's been one of the interesting changes for me is my schedule.
Definitely.
Is, getting up, eating breakfast, getting on the computer, getting my work done, answering emails, reaching out to coworkers, having Zoom meetings, eating lunch at noon.
Crazy, right?
And working, and then all of a sudden it's 4 or 5 o'clock, and like, okay, time for dinner. I haven't had this lifestyle since more than 20 years.
Yeah, and it's an adjustment, right? I mean, we all want this lifestyle, and we're all used to our crazy, hectic lives, and it's been an adjustment for me the past couple of months, obviously, of working in the evenings And that's something we haven't ever had as a family, and not being able to do the family dinners has been tough, obviously, but we have this time now. We're making the most of it. And, it's going to be tough for a little bit longer, obviously, and we don't know how long it's going to last, but we got to make the most out of it right now. One main thing I keep on stressing to my son is that you can't play video games all day. We got to be active. We got to be doing stuff. One saving grace for me, really, and the thing that I've kind of missed out on since I've been playing overseas for so long, is working out. And so I've been able to get on the Peloton every morning and get a bike ride. And I'm almost obsessed with it now, that I can get on there and do a 30 or 20-minute ride. And then now they have these stretching classes on there. So I'm like, oh, well, I've got all the time. Let's stretch, and then let's do some yoga, and let's do some meditation. And what else do they have on there to do? So it's exploring new adventures and new things is a big one.
We brought up Logan, your son, who has the double duty of being your son and a player for high performance.
Yeah.
How conscious is he of what's going on?
Ooh, that's a great question, because we were just talking about this. My neighbor, his son actually plays in the minor league system for the St. Louis Cardinals right now. And we were just talking about him, and then he sees my son shooting hoops every single day. And, I go to try to give my son a kiss in the morning. He's like, whoa, Dad, coronavirus, it's like, well, okay, take it easy. Let's not just say that out there. And he's pretty knowing of what's going on. And like I was talking to my neighbor about, is that he's going to remember this for the rest of his life, most likely. But there are a lot of kids out there, and the kids in our program are for sure going to remember this. But at the same time this is unprecedented waters, I guess, that we've seen before. And we're trying to get them and keep on doing as much stuff as we can. But it always reverts to, hey, I just want to play some video games. It's like, no, that's not going to make you better in life. Let's keep on pushing and keep on doing stuff. But he's very well aware of what's going on in the world right now, and he's keeping up to date too. And he'll be like, okay, how many cases do we have in Missouri right now? And it's like, okay, they're still going up, and we're trying to flatten the curve here, and just keep on doing what you're doing and forget about it as much as you can.
Yeah. I want to kind of tie Logan in on this next question, but really it's kind of directed at your experience in kind of putting yourself in the athlete's shoes. Mm-hmm. As a former professional athlete.
Sorry about that.
That's all right. It's probably a really important phone call. Putting yourself in, as somebody that you're we have very similar lives in terms of, we took different paths, but our lives for the last 20 years have been volleyball, whether as a player, as a coach. And I can't remember the last time I went a week without being in the gym. Months. And so just want to kind of get your perspective and put yourself in the athlete's shoes. If you had gone through this, if this had happened 5, 6, 7 years ago while you were still playing, how do you think you'd be dealing with it?
It's funny you say that, Cary, because I was literally just thinking about this about 3 days ago. And I was thinking about all of our kids in the high P system, all the kids, because these things with USA Ball will keep coming out on, we're going to have these virtual tryouts now. So you don't get that interaction with the kids inside the gym. And I was even thinking to myself, and I started talking to my buddies on the national team who are on the national team now and saying, hey man, I don't know what you guys are doing right now, but I wish I had a Peloton back in the day, because I would have been riding this thing all day long. And right now is a great way to stay in shape as much as you can. But man, if I had this a long time ago, luckily when I grew up, I was fortunate enough here in St. Louis that I had my own volleyball court in the backyard. Dad threw up a volleyball net in the back, and I would literally toss balls up to myself and spike balls over the net hundreds and hundreds a day. And nobody would be watching except for myself, and I feel like anything possible that I could do to be able to touch a volleyball right now is what I would have to do. If I had to go up against the side of the house and pass back and forth, that's what I think we've really tried to, get to our kids in our program of making all these videos that we have, and just keep on putting all the content out on social media for them, that it is a tough time, but you gotta keep on getting contacts on the ball. We can't just stop because, we can't get into the gym right now. We can't play matches, and we can't get into the qualifiers, whatever it is. but with everything nowadays that we have with social media, with YouTube and all these different exercises and videos that they have out there, I mean, there really isn't anything that would hold me back from doing anything that I could do with these avenues that we have nowadays. Now, if you were looking back, when I was playing in club, we had nothing like this. I don't even know what the heck we would do if this happened when I would be freaking out. I'd be crying in my bed all day long that I couldn't play. But nowadays with everything else, and I'm pretty sure everybody in our club probably has a volleyball. I know we make sure that they have one, for all the matches and tournaments, but they could take that exact same ball and be touching it all times. And I think that's huge for them. Any way they can get 1% to 2% better every single day is going to be big, because remember, everybody's in the same boat right now. And when we get to start practicing again, whether it be, 2 months from now, I don't even know when the next tryouts are, whoever's been touching the volleyball, we're going to know immediately which one those kids are, because those skills are going to be refined, they're going to be sharp, and they're going to be ready to rock and roll.
Yeah, you bring up an interesting point. We meet, you and I in our group, we meet once a week at least to keep exploring ways to stay connected with the families, with the kids, with our coaches, with each other. And the process that we've gone through to create content for our social media and for our website has been challenging.
Yep.
Weather was a challenge.
Yeah.
Not being able to be together was a challenge.
Yeah.
Just coming up, we didn't go to school for this.
No.
We're kind of flying off the seat of our pants right now. And it's been fun, first of all, but challenging. Mm-hmm. And it's been a real priority for us. And I think it's been good. But again, I want to kind of have you stay in the athlete's shoes for a minute and stay in our athlete's shoes right now. What kind of content would you want? Like what would you want to see? Put yourself in a 13, 14-year-old, some boy on 14 Royal, and he's sitting at home and he opens up high performance Twitter or Facebook or Instagram, whatever. What would you want? Do you want drills? Do you want videos to watch? Do you want the motivational stuff? What would be most impactful for you, do you think?
Yeah, I think you make up a really good point on the motivational stuff. Is right now we need to find motivation in everything that we do to be able to keep on pushing through this time. I think what we've put out there are the things that we've kind of thought about already of, one, we got to make sure we're giving some drills for them to be able to do at home. Two is we're getting the stuff that they can still work out their bodies, the performance training aspects and stuff like that. It was a cool little thing that we put out there of the national championship match. They could break it down. What we're starting to get into now, and we obviously have the first couple coming up here are some, USA national team players and stuff that are getting some Zoom calls with our athletes. And I think that's the next step. There's really nothing that, and I've been thinking about this for the last couple of days, because obviously, like I said, we've had all these calls and Zoom meetings and all this stuff. How can we keep on making and enriching our kids out there? The one thing I would say is they need to go back and watch video on themselves. They got to be able to take, if they've made a highlight video or if they just have sets and matches. A lot of our teams have huddle. And we got to make sure our kids, almost all of our parents videotape their matches that they played in this year. They got to go back and really make sure that they're analyzing their game in general and seeing what they can do better. Are they really focusing on the things that we talk about in practice when they're passing? Are their arms away from their body? Are they set in that angle? Are they finishing that platform? All these different things. And it's a good time to really make sure that they're focusing in on themselves. And then on top of that, once they do that, start watching some international matches and watching the best players in the world, the collegiate players, and really try to say, okay, I look like this, but then they're looking like that. And how do I bridge the gap between the two of them to let me start looking like those top players? Because I've always said this for the longest time, the top players, the best players in the world are the best players because they do the things the right way. And they refine their skills. They have so many hours of practice that they're doing it for a reason. They're the best players for a reason. So try to mimic their games. Try to make sure that they are watching from not the fan perspective of the goo-goos and gagas and ahs and oohs and my gosh, that spike was amazing, but the process of, okay, how did they get to that point to make that spike amazing? How was their approach? Did they get their feet to the ball? Do they jump vertical and not out? And all these things that we press upon inside of our practices and what we hear from our coaches every single day.
I think you bring up a really, really interesting point, and something that I've been saying for years is that most American kids don't have a really good visual of what high-level volleyball looks like.
Yep.
Because they just don't watch it. Now, the last 5 to 6, 7 years, there's so much more volleyball on TV, and it's awesome. You know, the collegiate volleyball, the international volleyball, everything. When I was a kid, I'm a little bit older than you. I got to watch volleyball when the Final Four was on, and that was in the Olympics. So every 4 years we got the Olympics. Didn't get any international volleyball in that. Got the women's Final Four in December, and got the men's Final Four in May.
Yep.
And I still have videotapes, VHS tapes of some of those matches. And even when I was little, when I first started playing club, you know, my brother Rick will testify to this. We used to go watch when we were 12, 13, 14 years old. We always made a point to go watch the 18-year-olds tournaments. And then when we got home, we'd go in the backyard and we'd pepper and we'd mimic what those players did. And I feel so lucky now, and I think kids are so lucky to have that. You know, brings up a question for you. You know, when did you first start paying attention to that high level type of volleyball? You know, where you said, I need to look like that.
Yep. Luckily, I had an older brother who played collegiately, and he played over in Clark College in Dubuque, Iowa, and Division III. And so when I was about 13 or 14 years old, I really started to watch a little bit higher levels. Then when I got into high school, that's kind of when I first started getting the youth national team. But it really was about 8th grade to freshman year of high school is when I really started to watch and try to mimic other people's games. I think this is kind of off topic here, but I think what a lot of kids need to really focus in on when they're watching video also is not just watch the kids that are in the same position as them. Watch multiple positions, because if I never had Jeff Gabbert, who I believe is one of the best coaches ever, he took me from a middle to an outside hitter. And that really kind of catapulted my career. If I would have stayed in the middle, I would have never been an Olympian or went out to college, played collegiately or anything like that. The change to outside hitter for me was huge. But I remember watching outside hitters and setters all the time. And I never really watched players in my own position, just because it was like, okay, how can I get better? I know I'm a middle, but if I want to be the best player I can be, I can't just be watching middles the whole entire time. I got to be watching setters so I can be able to set the volleyball. If a setter takes a first ball and I'm a middle, I got to be able to set the ball, because what do we first think of? Like, oh my gosh, what's going to happen with that middle when they go to set that ball? Or I got to be able to pass a volleyball too, because at that time, the libero wasn't the position that they had now. So middles actually had to go back there and play defense. And so I was watching these guys play defense and pass volleyballs, and any way I could help the team out. And I think it's important to make sure that we're always watching different players in that position. And I love the point that you brought up is, if you're a 14-year-old kid or a 12-year-old kid, you don't need to be watching the Olympics and analyzing those players as saying, like, I got to start doing that. 16-year-olds, 18-year-olds, collegiate players. It doesn't have to be Division I. It could be Division II, III, NAIA, whatever that is. But higher level than what you're playing right now is going to be a good thing for you to start watching, to try to take things from their games. But also at the very end that I always talk about is make sure you watch some of the things that are like the intangibles, how they're staying down and ready the whole entire time and not just standing up during a play, how they're going and diving after every single ball and not just saying, I might be able to get that one, I might not be able to, but they always go, because it's something that their coaches are continuously telling to do. You're never going to know unless you go. And so our coaches consistently say that too. But it's whenever you get that mindset, you flip it and say, okay, I'm just going to dive after every single one. You'll start picking up more balls all the way through. And those are big things to watch, just as much as the skills aspect as well.
You kind of brushed on this, but I kind of want to shift gears and just spend a little time and talk about your career, because I know you consider yourself very lucky to have had that long career you had in the sport that you love. Obviously, talent had something to do with it, and being as tall as you are had something to do with it. But
Sure.
I know that you really appreciate what you have. At what point did you start thinking volleyball is going to be my career? Was it, were you 14, were you 18, were you 25? Like when when did it start to sink in, like, this is what I want to do and I'm going to go for it?
Yeah, as a career, it really wasn't until probably sophomore year of college is, I was freshman of the year out at Long Beach State, and that sophomore year was by far my worst year at Long Beach State. And as a team, that was my worst year as a team of my 4 years. But my sophomore year is really when I started to focus in and say, I could really make something of this as a long-term goal that I've always had, and try to, fulfill some dreams of making the Olympics and stuff like that. Really, my freshman year of high school was when I really figured out, because I was playing basketball and volleyball at the same time at Vianney, that, basketball is going to have to be set aside. I'm going to have to quit that sport, and I'm going to have to go all in on volleyball right now. And maybe it's a big gamble, but, this is the sport that I love, and I got to go after it as much as I can with everything possible in my body. And of course, like you said, being tall was a big thing about it. You can't teach height, either are tall or not. But going out to Long Beach State was by far probably one of the best things ever. And of course, having, all of my coaches growing up, from Donna Mayer, who started me in second grade, by far, God rest her soul. I would say the best thing that ever happened to me was her forcing me to play volleyball, and which was great for a pair of shoes of all things. And then, her teaching me how to play the game of volleyball the right way. I remember in third grade, after some matches, we lost every single match my third grade year. I used to come home and my mom said I was a freaking train wreck, because I would come home and I would cry like a little baby because we would lose every single game, but Mrs. Mayer would not let us do what we called bomb ball and just hit the ball over on one every single time. She made us use 3 contacts and learn how to play the right way. And then, of course, 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th grade year, we just win everything because she taught us how to play the right way. And then getting Jeff Gabbard, of course, in high school, and of course having Scott Meeber as my coach with my brother and Brian Pichelle. Those guys taught me how to play volleyball and start to form it as making it a job per se. And saying, you've got all the tools necessary, but you need to start playing harder and working harder, and being a great teammate and all these different things that we talk about all the time. And then, of course, getting into Long Beach State, having Alan Knipe there, and then 13 years overseas professionally in 9 different countries, won 10 titles over there. And then the pinnacle of the career of course, winning World League and then the Olympic Games. And you can't fathom ever getting to that point. Never, ever, in those 13 years when I was on the national team for 6 and overseas playing professionally, it never felt like a job ever to me. I mean, it was the most funnest thing in the whole entire world. And it finally got to the point, because of, having 4 knee surgeries, that I was like, oh boy, I think it's about that time. And then, of course, all the sacrifice that the family makes, my wife and son, being over there for so many years. And the thing that really got me to the point of retiring at the very end was my son was in a Montessori school in Poland. And he said to me one day after school when I picked him up, he said, "You know what, Dad? These kids aren't the same like me." And I was like, okay, I guess. I went right home to my wife. I said, "Honey, I'm retiring after this year." And she goes, "Oh my God, finally?" And it was like, yeah, he started to realize that he wasn't the same like those kids. And it was about time to get him back to the United States. But, that's why I always talk to kids about when they come to me and talk about like a dream, of, hey, I want to go play over here. And said, a dream is a dream. You can go as far as you want, but it's going to be up to you. We use attitude, communication, effort a lot. But the thing I always go back to on that whole entire 3 things that you can control is that it's choice. Just like right now in this pandemic that we're going through in these stay-at-home orders, it's a choice to be able to get up and touch a volleyball every single day, to stretch in the morning and stretch at night. I learned all of these things over my whole entire 27 years of playing volleyball, or even more, 29. And those just kind of stuck with me the whole entire way of, stretch in the morning, stretch at night. How can you take care of your body? How can you get stronger? Talking to my neighbor yesterday brought up one of my favorite things in the world of being overseas playing professionally. was because it was a job and because they're paying you to obviously play the sport that you love, that you alluded to. My neighbor's son who plays for the Cardinals farm system, his best buddy just got cut from the Angels yesterday. And it freaked his son out because with no baseball going on right now, his son was out there and he was throwing into their net that they have. He's a pitcher. And I was watching him and he came over to me and I said, whoa, what got him to start working so hard? He goes, well, his buddy got cut. And I said, the famous thing that I used to always tell myself is, if I'm not working right now, somebody's trying to take my job and somebody else is. And I'm getting worse while they're getting better. And it's a mindset that you have to have every time of being an athlete, period.
So I'm glad you said the word mindset, because that kind of leads me into my next question. We're going to have a lot of time to talk about the Olympics. And, I wanted to go back one day and like break down the World League leading up to it.
Oh, yeah.
But, we're going to have plenty of time for that. We got a lot of time. That's another episode. But what I want, we talk a lot about when we talk about our core values and our standards with our club. We talk about having a winning attitude, having a winning mindset. And sometimes, people don't like to talk about winning, because if you talk about winning, you also have to talk about losing. Mm-hmm. And I'm always curious, you guys weren't necessarily the favorite in that Olympics. You were a medal contender probably going in, right? In terms of the odds. At what point was it before? Was it during? Was there a certain point where you actually started talking about winning a gold medal? And when did the coaching staff bring it up? When did you as players really start to think, hey guys, this is something we can do?
Yeah, you hit it right on the head. We were maybe a medal contender going into that Olympics in 2008. When we really started to believe that we could win was the World League run leading up to the Olympics. What most people don't remember about that run was when we got to World League finals in Rio de Janeiro, Brazil, we lost our very first match. There's two pools of 3 on both sides. Yep. And so you play both teams in your pool, and then the top 2 from each pool advance to the semifinals. We lost our first match inside of that to Serbia, I believe, and we got absolutely crushed 3-0. I mean, it was not even close. We did not even play anywhere up to what we should have done. Then we beat Poland in 5 the very next night. So we actually needed Poland to beat we needed Serbia to beat Poland, and it had to be fairly quick, I guess you could say, for us to even advance to the semifinals. And they beat them in like 4 sets. So we advanced into the semifinals. And then we ended up beating Serbia in the finals of World League to win the whole entire thing. Serbia was actually one of the biggest medal contenders, along with Russia and Brazil at the same time. Those were like us, they were the top 4. And beating Brazil in the semifinals in Brazil in front of, I think it was like 18,000 fans. And then 3-0 actually, and then beating Serbia the next night 3-0 to win World League. Finally, it was like, wow, we could maybe go into Beijing and actually win this thing. We always had Brazil's number for some reason. The team that we could never get by was Russia. Mm-hmm. And then of course we beat them in the semifinals in Beijing to get to the finals against Brazil. And then once we did that, we knew that we were going to win, because we had already beat Brazil probably 5 or 6 times in a row leading up to that, and no other team in the world could beat them besides us. It was the weirdest thing.
Yeah, it's amazing. Like I said, I really, one day I want to do my research. I want to break down that World League, and because that was one of the first years that we actually got to watch some of the World League.
Yep, exactly.
Because back, 20 years ago, you'd go into the Olympics like, yeah, I'm rooting for the USA, and I know who some of these guys are because I watched them play in college. And yeah, maybe I knew like the top 5 guys in the world, but I didn't know who the setter was for Serbia, who the middles were for Argentina, or whatever, and that was the first chance I think volleyball nerds, fans, whatever you want to call it, went into the Olympics having a pretty good idea of who was good and who wasn't. And we're getting more and more of that, which I think is awesome. How much volleyball do you watch right now? Like, are you watching the Nations League? Are you gearing up for that?
You know what is funny is I don't watch a ton of it. Obviously, this year I watched more college volleyball besides coaching at Long Beach State the last 2 years than I ever have. I watch Nations League quite a bit just for the fact of a lot of those guys that still play. I played against, and I actually played with a lot of them. And of course, always rooting on Team USA and the guys that are on there right now. And those are all guys that I played with. A lot of the guys now were really young when I was on the team. And so they were just coming up out of college. But, I don't get to watch as much as I'd like to. What's cool now is that Logan's obviously playing club volleyball, and he's getting into it. And so when it does start getting up here, and he was super fired up for the Olympics, and unfortunately, obviously, it's been moved a year back to 2021 now. And that's a whole nother, thing to bring up is a lot of the guys who had been gearing up for this Olympics, one more year in their career. I mean, that could be them not making the Olympics this go around. And so it's very interesting. Now because of all the extra time we've had, I haven't watched a movie I can't even tell you how many years. I've watched probably 15 movies in the past 12 days. We have movie night every single night. What's really cool and a great movie, I think, for all of our kids to go out and watch is the Simone Biles movie, the gymnast. And I don't know if you've ever watched that, but it came up on Hulu, and I was like, wow, I'd really love to watch this. What we don't talk about a lot, and this really kind of resonated with me, and I really had to look back at my own life and career going through high school and into college and of course leading to the Olympics, was sacrifice. How much all of our kids at High P sacrifice, all the nights that they're in the gym when they could be doing something totally else. If you watch that Simone Biles movie, she got homeschooled. She had to leave her mom, and she went to live with her grandma and grandpa. And then they became her mom and dad. They actually went and homeschooled her after they found out that she, with all of her travel and all of the practices and early mornings, she couldn't do a normal school. And then, of course, she didn't go to college. Her dream was to go to UCLA. She didn't go to college because she had to pick between endorsement deal or college right before the Rio Olympics. And that was just sacrifice after sacrifice after sacrifice, and not getting a so-called teenage life that most kids have. It really kind of brought it back to me of, man, I missed a lot of dances growing up in high school. I missed a lot of things growing up. I didn't go to any parties or anything because I had one thing in mind, and that was, if I want to be the best volleyball player I could be, I had to give up something. And I think it would be great for all of our kids, or if you just have a couple hours and you wanted to watch a movie, the Simone Biles movie is a phenomenal one.
It's good. Yeah, it's interesting. I hadn't heard of it. I'm gonna check it out.
Really cool.
I think want to segue into a little bit about your career and just some like quick hit questions. I'm gonna put you on the spot. Now I know every teammate you've ever played with is obviously going to be watching and listening to this.
Yeah.
Really popular. But first question off the top of your head: favorite teammate now, ever? High school, college, club, pro, national team. Favorite team.
Gosh, that is maybe one of the hardest questions I've ever had in my life. Favorite teammate has to be Lloyd Ball.
Really?
Yep. Quick story, funny little story. I remember in a practice, one of my first practices ever on the top team at the national team gym. And I'm on Lloyd's side, first ever 5-time Olympian. I mean, unbelievable volleyball player. And he sets me a ball, perfect set, a go ball to the outside. I have a one-on-one block. I hit it out of bounds cross court by probably 3 inches. He doesn't set me another ball the whole entire drill. And I'm screaming for the volleyball, go, go. And he's like, nope, not going to. We lose the drill. He comes up to me during the water break, and he's like, in better terms, don't you ever hit a volleyball out of bounds with a one-on-one block and a perfect set ever again. And I said, okay, like I just missed the ball. He said, I don't care if you missed by an inch or a mile, it's still out. The very next drill, I get on his team again. He sets me the first 9 volleyballs in a row. I kill 9 in a row. And it taught me one of the most important lessons. I mean, it was the best thing ever is, at that highest level, it's a game of inches. And if you don't kill the ball when you're supposed to kill the ball with a one-on-one block, that's pretty much an automatic swing at that level. And you got to be ultra focused at all times. And he pushed me, and he's probably one of my favorites ever.
Love it. Favorite city you ever played in?
Well, favorite city was Berlin, Germany, for sure. The fans were crazy. I played there 5 years. We were the number 1 most fan-attended team in all of Europe when I played there. And we would average about 5,200 fans a match.
Wow.
Yeah.
Next one is, because I know you're a little picky, all your world travels, best city you lived in for food, because that's, near and dear to my heart.
Wow. Oh, this is going to be odd. Istanbul, Turkey. I played 2 seasons there in Istanbul. You could get any type of food you ever wanted, but Turkish food was like ice cream to me. I mean, I could eat it all day long. It was the most amazing thing. The flavors and everything. It was just, I loved it in Turkey.
It's on my bucket list. It's one of the places I want to go to. I have a friend that lived there for years. You guys probably lived there at the same time, and it's all he talks about is the food.
Oh, the food was phenomenal. I mean, there's one dish that we just actually made here at the house because of all this extra time, like you said, of cooking. It's called menemen, and it's a Turkish egg and pepper and onion type little like runny type breakfast dish, and you put it on bread, and it like just melts in your mouth with all these spices and flavors. Oh, it's amazing. I'll make it for you sometime, Cary.
Can't wait. The next one is going to be an interesting question, I think, because you already said Loy was your favorite teammate. I'm going to keep repeating that, so in case any of your other teammates listen to this. But I always think it's interesting to hear from athletes the player either they thought was the best player they ever played against. So like maybe a player you had trouble beating their team because they were so good, or just the player you hated playing against the most. And not from a personal level. Maybe you do have something on a personal level you want to talk about, but kind of who's the player when you were going into a match, not that you're scared of, but that you knew you were going to be in for the fight of your life that night?
Yeah, and there's a lot of them that you don't like when you play overseas, I'll tell you that. One guy that immediately came up to my mind is Maxim Mikhailov. Played for Russia national team. He actually was the opposite. I played against him. Of course, Matt Anderson played with him for a lot of years. I want to say probably 7 or 8 years he played in Kazan with him. We got the lucky draw in Champions League. We got out of Champions League 3 years in a row out of the main draw. And you get into the round of 16 to get to the quarterfinals. And we drew Kazan 3 years in a row, back to back to back. Well, the first 2 years we got them, and then we hosted Champions League Final Four in Berlin the 3rd year. And, of course, we draw them in the semifinals in the Final Four match. Lose to them every single time. And Mikhailov went off on us every single time. And phenomenal volleyball player. I always called him the horse of volleyball because if you saw his quads, they were like horses' legs. I mean, these things were freaking just massive and jumped super high and just an unbelievable all-around volleyball player. But, of course, I had to block against him, and, of course, I had to attack against him. And that was not one of the most fun things to do of either side.
That'd be a tough one. And there's a lot of – I was really interested to hear what you were going to say because, like I said, your career, I got to know a lot of international volleyball players. Yep. So we're gonna dive into that a little bit more in the coming weeks. But like I said, got a lot of podcasts to go. We don't want to use it all up on one.
Exactly.
Want to shift gears a little bit. This is something, kind of non-volleyball, and maybe we can spin it into a volleyball thing. I got to thinking yesterday about some of the positive things that can come out of this, out of the pandemic, whether it's family relationships, kids and adults alike finding new things to explore in terms of hobbies or skills or careers, figuring out different things that they enjoy. One thing that I think is really interesting, and one of the things I'm so thankful this didn't happen when we were kids
Sure.
is having things like Zoom or just being able to interface with people on a screen and actually see them and talk to them, whether it's one-on-one or in a group, has been amazing for me. And you and I have talked about it, and just in terms of staying connected with everybody in our job. But I got to think, you have way more friends that live around the world than I do, but obviously we have friends that move away from our hometowns and live in different cities. I've connected more with those people in the last 2 weeks than I have in the last 5 years. And I think from taking a positive spin on something is just how much more people are connecting now than they did 3 weeks ago.
That is, I mean, you're right on that, because of social media. And it's funny because I have so many different things, because, in China, they use WeChat, and all my buddies use WeChat over there in China, and then in WhatsApp, all for the people over in Europe. And then you got all these different things. I've talked to more people overseas that I have not talked to in the last 3 weeks, just like you're saying, which has been amazing. Even guys that I haven't talked to since my first year overseas when I was in Greece and in Belgium, which is way, way back there. This is, 15, 16 years ago. And people that are reaching out because they're seeing new things that I'm starting up, and people have more time on their hands and whatever it may be. And it's amazing to be able to rekindle some relationships that you haven't had in a long time. Obviously, talk to some people that you haven't been able to talk to in a while. But just to know that the whole world is affected by this right now. And, the smallest thing of, hey, how is the family doing right now is making a lot of people's day. And, luckily I have not met or talked with anybody that has, got the coronavirus yet. And knock on wood, please, hopefully nobody that I know does. And not from selfish thing, I don't want to get it, of course, but I just don't want any of my friends to be afflicted with it or have anything happen to their families right now. And like you said, there are so many good things that can come out of this. Obviously, family time and making sure that the family is nice and strong. Just trying to keep a good attitude. You're going to see when we're all able to get back into the gym, it's going to be like one of the most relieving days, I think, for everyone, is when they go back to their jobs and they get back into their environments of seeing people they haven't and friendships. And my wife and I were talking about this, just the other day. I mean, friends can't even go up and, hug each other, and say hi or nothing like that right now. And, being and have played in Italy against a lot of Italian teams over there, that is like their number one thing in the world. They hug and they kiss and, say hello in every different way possible. Now you know why so many people in Italy, got affected by this, because that is just their normalcy that they do and the way that they love over there. And so as much as everybody's, I think, hurting right now, there's going to be a lot of positives that we're going to take away from this. And I think you're going to see a lot more people connect that they haven't in the longest time, like you're saying.
I agree. Well, good stuff, Scotty. I think episode 1 is in the books. Like I said,
That fast?
We're gonna chop up a lot of volleyball stuff and a lot of things, current events and how we can stay connected with everybody. We're gonna have a lot of guests on here. I'm excited. I can't wait. Just for everybody that's listening, Friday, Scotty, myself, and our recruiting director at High Performance, Kevin Dunn, are going to record an episode based simply on recruiting for both the boys and the girls. So keep up with us on social media, on our website, hpsdl.org, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. Keep up with the content. Looking forward to seeing everybody soon. Scotty, thanks for your time.
Thank you. #HighP at home. Don't forget that.
Absolutely. Everybody stay safe and healthy. Goodbye.
See you guys.